the first question on our list is, I guess, can you introduce yourself and say how you serve older people in your church, in your community, kind of what your role is that you're involved in?
Okay, so I'm Jackie. I live in Coventry. I've been involved in my local church here for about 8 years, and I ended up being involved in quite a lot of things involving older people in church, including cafes and afternoon teas, and then I became part of the pastoral care team. And I got involved with just keeping in touch with people and just to see what they needed and to make sure everybody was safe and well. So that's how I started getting involved in working with older people in church.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And when did your interest in serving older people begin?
I think older people in general was many years ago. I worked in a special needs school for many years, and I decided it was a bit of a time for a career change. So I then moved to work in a care home with a lot of elderly people who had mental health problems, mental health issues. And so that from there it kind of rolled on. I then moved to Coventry, started working for another care company, visiting people at homes, and then I moved to work for Good Neighbours Coventry, which is part of Hope Coventry, so all the churches across Coventry. And this is a project specifically aimed at older people, 65 plus, but through the pandemic that age has come down to 50 plus, because we've found that there's such a lot of people who are lonely and isolated at a much younger age. So the sort of older section of people has come down in age a little bit. I'm now in that age, so that's a bit. But I've been involved working with older people now for 8 years, 10 years or something like that. And I just love being in this area. I think it's very rewarding. So.
Yeah, fantastic. And so I guess carrying on from that, what are your current interests or acts of service towards older people, or any kind of roles that you facilitate, work that you do?
So work, I'm across a few different churches. So with Good Neighbours, we are a befriending service. We arrange for a volunteer to come to visit someone weekly. Or we look at the things that they're interested in, and then we arrange to get them into groups to build communities, and hopefully we can get people back into different church groups. Within Good Neighbours and conversations, we found that people have gone to church many years ago, and for different reasons no longer do. And I really enjoy when I can match people up or get them connected back in with a church. I like to get them a befriender because that's great for them. But when I can get them connected back into a church in any way at all, a wee happy dance, and that is just like, yes, this is great. I work with another couple of churches, and we're doing projects over there as well to sort of build community. But one of the churches is intergenerational. So we are inviting a lot of families in, and so there's benefits from all ages. So children like listening to the stories. Not everybody's got a grandparent on their doorstep anymore like you did back when I was young. So they enjoy that interaction with somebody who's older. And the older people just love watching children in general, just playing. They're just such joy and uncomplicated little things that they just really enjoy the time that they're spending with them. And they're just learning from each other, and a few families just now we've got starting to bond. So a mum and her children are now connecting with an elderly lady, and they're going to start meeting up independently, and it's just so nice to see it all happening. So that's been lovely. And very recently, one of my big passions, I've started a dementia cafe. So such high numbers of people, especially in the last year, have been referred or looking for company for people with dementia. And it is quite a difficult area to kind of match somebody to. It's not just your, come round for a cup of tea. It's a wee bit more complicated. So we've started Dementia Cafe. We've got reminiscent activities and you know, everything evolves around food and drinks and things, tea, and you can never have too much cake. So we've got a lot of these things going on and activities. So just to kind of give people a place so that they've got a social group as well, and just a bit of stimulation. And it's very good for the dementia in lots and lots of different ways. So that's going really, really well now. When we're talking, we do a lot of singing, and when we've been singing, the one things that people remember, you know, the songs that you learned back in the day when you went to Sunday school.
Yeah.
People know all these words. They don't know if they had their breakfast possibly, but they know all these words. And this has been great, and it's been bringing such joy and comfort to people. So we are planning in the future to have a little bit of a kind of, for want of a better word, a bit of a God slot, where we're actually, you know, making a point of doing these songs and what do people remember, and revisiting stories that, you know, Bible stories and things that they all know. So that's been a very positive start to that.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that sounds great. It is amazing how, as you say, people can know these tunes and the words and not know that they've got them. And then as soon as they hear, they're like, oh, take it straight. I remember like my grandma, she didn't go to church, but she would know the Sunday school things, and it was it's amazing, and it's a really helpful tool. So that's fantastic.
Well, one of the last things that people lose if they are living with dementia is music. Music always brings memories, you know. Oh, I remember when I went to my first dance, and all the rest. All these kind of things you retain, and you learnt these words so many years ago that despite the fact that your most recent memories are starting to leave you, you still remember all those things from years ago. So it is great, just the fact that they can still join in with everything and do know all the words without thinking, oh, that's something else I don't know. So that's nice. Nice.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Great, thank you. The next question is, do you have any stories of how God has worked with older people that you can share with me? Don't worry if not, because I realise you've not looked at these questions beforehand, but it's just if there was maybe a story that's stuck in your mind of maybe, I guess, yeah.
I will have it. It'll come to me in just a minute. If you've got more questions on your list, we can move on.
I'll come back. Yeah, of course. So I guess this might touch on things that you've already mentioned, but what have you found to be the most effective ways to reach, serve, and empower older people?
I find it can be quite difficult for people who are no longer part of a church to actually encourage them to come back. It's quite so I moved here, didn't know anybody. I moved to Coventry for a man, didn't know anybody else. And when I got here, I wasn't rocking up at the school gates, taking my kids to school and things like that. And it's quite difficult to get to know people. So if you're older, even older again, and you're turning up to a church where you don't really know anybody, it's quite difficult to get over that doorstep. So that's been one of the kind of issues that we've had. And we've had to have conversations with people to say, would you like to? Would you like to go? Would you like to go? And now we are just taking them. So that's proved, you know, easier to go with somebody. And we've spoken to different churches to say, so this lady would like to come, and you know, they've set up people to speak to her when she gets there, and with the best of intentions, people in churches know each other. And it is a social thing, especially just now when we've not been anywhere for the last year and a half. You want to talk to all the people that you know, but at the same time, we have to be very inclusive. So it's been very difficult to get actually people to come back over the doorsteps. So we work in an area where people are of all different faiths. And so I've taken people to the temple, I've taken people to the Catholic church up the road, I've taken people to the United Reformed Church, and they've went to lots and lots of different things. So it's just kind of building up the contacts in different places to say, look, this person, this is where they want to come, because you can't be everywhere, you know, just to get people to help them along. But I'm not sure actually if that even answers your question, to be honest.
No, yeah. So like, like kind of coming alongside people, I guess, and going with people into the new places, and not just kind of inviting them and then being like, well, they can just come on their own, or we've invited, that's it. But it's actually, we'll come with you, and having that social aspect, so that they, because like you say, I think at any age it can be daunting going into like anywhere, like social situation on your own, and particularly a church, particularly if there's different things kind of you can like kind of relating to it, or different issues or whatever. So I think that's definitely a really great way to just get people through the door at the beginning, and then so yeah, really good that it did answer the question.
Actually, when people have an expectation of churches being very friendly, being full of Christian people and very friendly, and I don't like to be negative, but they're not all like that. That people can be quite cliquey. I don't know if that's a Scottish word, but you know what I mean.
No.
And it can be very difficult to go into a church where you don't know anybody, and try and get yourself into a group. So it can be a difficult time. I've had quite a lot of people who are immobile, and getting people to come out from church to deliver communion, that has been really successful and much easier because they don't have to go over the doorstep. But ideally, we would like to get people a bit further. But it's marvellous that they're getting that started back up again. But yeah, you want to get the community as well as communion. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's great. Okay, the next question is, do you have any particular resources that you found helpful or that you'd recommend to others?
I have used quite a lot of resources when I've been on Faith in Later Life. So I've downloaded quite a lot of things from there. And I think just joining their Zoom meetings and things was good, because a lot of people had suggestions there that I used this and I used that. And what I did find useful was that people said that never worked for me. And that's like, okay, that's fine. I'm not going about this completely wrong. And it is a hard thing to do. And then you're like, right, okay, that's fine. We'll carry on. It is difficult. So that's actually been useful. People's input and the conversations that people have had, that's been good. But yeah, I've got a bank of stuff that I've kept for at different times of the year and plans to put into place. So yeah, the resources have been good. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, oh great. I'm pleased to hear that. And again, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what have you found to be the best way to engage with older people during COVID? You've explained a bit maybe about taking communion. Was there anything else that has been happening?
We have been a lot of telephoning. I know everybody's been telephoning, and we've been setting up people on iPads or setting up their phones so that they can access church, because they're not necessarily an age where they're on Facebook and things all the time, and young people are just on everything. But if there's been no need, I mean, one of the first things that brought this up was people were being told to shield, but how did I get my food shopping? So the answer was, well, you go online, but not everybody can do that. If you can't go online shopping, can you go online to your church service? So that's what made us think about it. So we started going to helping people kind of like through the window or in the garden or whatever the safe thing was at the time, just to help them learn some technology skills. One lady that I work alongside, she turned up at a lady's house every Sunday morning just to get her online. Then she sat there on it and really enjoyed it, but she couldn't do it herself. So 3 months later, she popped up like, here I am. Like, how did you manage that?
Yeah.
She had loved it so much that she just started to learn bits and was accessing that. She was on the cathedral's site. She was on umpteen church sites actually. By that point, she was everywhere. But yeah, that's been good. Actually helping people to use technology has been a way to keep in touch, so that we can keep in touch with them, but also then so they can get in touch with others too.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I think there's definitely been, speaking to other church champions, they've said similar things, trying to get kind of the older members of churches kind of online, it's obviously is a challenge, but at the same time, it's now they're online where they've got like WhatsApp groups that people can stay in contact with or that sort of thing. It's at least one positive that's come out of the pandemic and is sadness. But it's I think in that respect, with things going online and maybe people, as you say, who can't get to church and now have been able to like listen in or get access.
I've got a few people who have actually linked them up to the church that their family goes to in Australia. In Australia.
Wow.
So they are going to church. They're going to church with their family every single week now in Australia. Yeah, that's good, isn't it? And we've got people locally who are now going on different churches who hadn't been before, and they're now saying, see, when it opens, I think I'll go. Now, would that have happened before? I don't really know. But so the technology part has been a safe way to actually get in there and see what's happening, enjoy the service, actually stay after church for the chat if you want to, or in the chat, or be talking to people and getting to know some people before you actually go. And then they're saying, right, well, I'm coming this Sunday, and other people are looking forward to meeting them now because they've been online service for a while. So that's actually a kind of way in as well, a kind of easier way to get there. And you get the opportunity to see if it's the church for you. Do I like this one, or is it a bit too funky, or is it whatever? So it's a good way to try that out as well, see what you like.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe bridges that the big gap, or the kind of taking that first step. It definitely makes that slightly easier. Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to loop back to the question I asked earlier to see if anything's come to mind about any stories that you can share.
Yeah, so I just remembered this lady. she was having a volunteer. She wasn't uninterested or about faith or anything, but the conversations wasn't really going anywhere. And now, unfortunately, the pandemic, she ended up in hospital, quite seriously ill. And I got a phone call. It first took me a good few minutes to work out who it was, because she was sobbing her heart out. Understandably, the lady thought she was dying. And so she needed to pray, and she needed somebody to pray with her. And I was like, what's happening here? You know, it's just, and that's these moments, isn't it? Right in that moment, you turn back to, so there she was. So we prayed with her on the phone. So the whole of our team was sending in cards and things to her in the hospital with prayers and things. We got the hospital chaplains all involved. They were fantastic. They were doing much more than, you would have expected, because obviously they were under high pressure at that time as well. And so we were a wee bit nervous every time the phone rang, because it was so bad. And then we got a phone call to say one of us could go to visit her at hospital, and she wanted to meet us in the hospital chapel. So it was very emotional. And she's home, and she's good, and she's now going to a church near her.
Amazing.
So, but she did say she was scared, and when she was scared, that's where she turned to. And she says, I didn't realise that I thought like that. So, but yeah, that was quite a humbling moment, actually, to be kind of involved in that as well. So,
yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's very emotional, that sort of thing. And I know a lot of our church champions have been in similar situations where they've maybe been called to a bedside, or had like maybe even someone's final moments, and they've just seen something of there to be like some acceptance of Jesus and of the gospel, and just to be involved in that, and also what the witness that can be to the members of staff and like the nurses who have heard. It's just incredible. So again, another positive in a way, or way God has like worked through it, I guess.
So this isn't related to anything I've been involved in, but my husband's stepdad died last May, and when he used to always ask about what we're talking about in church today, Jackie, they live in Scotland, what are we talking about today? And I would tell him, and he went every week, but he said he went for his wife. I'm not quite sure, Jackie. No. I says, I just go because Bobby wants to go, and we have our tea and we chat. That's it, that's it. He was in hospital, and the minister up there was allowed to come to see him, and he knew he had hours. And when the minister came out, and he came back to say, look, I've spoke to him and everything, and everything's going to be fine, because he told me he has met Jesus.
Oh,
And we were like, could you not have done that a bit earlier? When we could have discussed it. But it was just one of those, yes, so lovely.
amazing. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, it is in those moments where you're like, yes.
Yeah, because obviously if he discovered that a few hours later, he couldn't tell anybody that he had met him, so to have actually said before he died, yeah, I'm fine, I'm ready, I've met Jesus, you're like,
Yeah,
okay, good.
yeah, and that's such a comfort to you and your husband, I'm sure, as well. So it's
Exactly.
fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.